Welcome back, friends, to Dynamo DeFi. My name is Patrick, and on this channel I talk about cryptocurrency, decentralized finance, and economics. Today's video is going to be a bit different. I always say on this channel that you should do your own research and encourage people to go out and find DeFi projects on their own. So in today's video, I'm going to go through my top 6 favorite tools for doing research in DeFi and for finding small and upcoming projects. With that, let's get into it. So the first tool that I like to use, and this is definitely my number one go-to tool, check this every morning, that is Defi Llama. And despite the maybe slightly silly name, there's nothing silly about this tool. This is definitely the best, most comprehensive tool I've found for seeing the total value locked, that's TVL, if you're not familiar with the acronym, seeing the TVL across different chains and across different protocols. So this is right here. You can see the first main page on Defi Llama, and it just has the TVL of every single protocol that they're tracking. And it's as I said before, shockingly comprehensive. You can just see quickly all of the chains that they're tracking TVL on, and it's quite impressive. And there might be some small chains that aren't on here. I can think of a couple, but all of your big boys are going to be on here, and many of the small players, including some that might only have a few $1,000s, are included on here as well. Here's the main page, and then one thing I like to do is always go over to the chain section. So here you can see, for example, the total value locked across every chain they track, the dominance. So if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see I'm often posting stats about the dominance. This is of different chains. This is where I get them from. And then you can see here you have the 1-day change and the 7-day change for all of these different chains. So one of the first things I like to do when I'm looking for new projects to invest in is go here and look for trends. For example, Phantom. Now the TVL has really shot up, especially as price has taken off. But you could have noticed all summer, as some people did, that even though the price was just in the dumps over here, the TVL was steadily rising, and by late July, early August, it had actually surpassed the TVL from the spring bull run. And you could have noticed that the TVL was rising, and then people started to catch on. The price of Phantom followed, and it's really taken off since then. Done almost a 10x, done more than a 10x from its low earlier in the summer. So that's the sort of thing you can use these stats for. And then what I also like to do is when I'm investigating a network, any network, here they have a list of all of the projects that are tracked on Defi Llama. And here on Phantom, for example, you can see there are a few dozen, about 3 dozen projects ranging from, well, I'd recommend staying away from anything with $0 TVL, but $75,000 TVL all the way up to $700 million. So huge range of projects ranging from Spooky Swap, which is sort of a blue chip on Phantom, all the way down to some projects that I've never heard of before. That's one way you could use Defi Llama. Another thing you could do is perhaps you just want to go look at the chains, and then as soon as this loads, we'll look at the chains. But you could go over to this section and then scroll down, and just there's really not too many here that you might want to find some that sound interesting to you or that you've never heard of, and say, oh, what is Wan Chain? What is Near? What is Ontology? And that's a great way that you can find something and then start doing research on it. This is Defi Llama, and I'm spending the longest time on this protocol just because, like I said, this is my favorite, and this is my go-to. Next up, we have Token Terminal. This is my second favorite project for researching DeFi applications. Here you can find protocol revenue. So this is different than TVL because TVL is the amount of money that's locked in the project, so either being lent out or staked or used to provide liquidity. Protocol revenue is how much money the project is actually collecting in fees. And this includes both layer 1 blockchains as well as dApps, which are designated as L2 on the Zap. And they say it's evaluating and tracking the most promising projects. And I somewhat agree, because TVL is great, but if you're thinking of your token as a way to capture value from the project, what you really want to know is how much money are they collecting, right? Are people willing to pay for the project? So Ethereum, of course, this is 30 days. Let's switch to 7 days. Ethereum is just collecting massive amounts of revenue, partially because the fees are so high. But no one can argue that people are not willing to pay to use Ethereum. Next up, you have Axie Infinity with $36 million. If you're not familiar, that is the largest play-to-earn game. It's especially big in Philippines and a few other countries. You have OpenSea, DYDX, Filecoin. This one really surprised me. Let's jump over to Just Dapps. And you can just go down the list here and you'll recognize a lot of these names. One thing that I found particularly interesting here, just to give you an example of the sort of thought process that I use when I'm investigating projects, is Trader Joe, so the #1 DeFi project in DEX on Avalanche. Last 7 days, $850,000 in revenue. Aave, $900,000, so almost the same. And Aave, of course, is one of the largest DeFi projects, DeFi blue chip, undisputed, incredible team. But then you say, well, Trader Joe's collecting the same amount of revenue. And that doesn't mean that that'll be the case forever, but if you look at the fact that they're collecting the same amount of revenue, and then you look at the discrepancy in their market caps, then one might make the bet that Trader Joe was undervalued, despite the fact that it's had an incredible run-up already. And then if you scroll down here, you can see that there's some more stats, including they have TVL for some of the projects. Again, I prefer Defi Llama for that. They have the 7-day trend in revenue. They have price to sales, price to earnings. So you can almost think of this as a way to value DeFi protocols, sort of like how you might value a stock. And one could argue whether that's the right way to do it or not, but I think it's a really useful statistic to have, especially when I said you have something like Trader Joe, which is this kind of upstart project that even now a lot of people haven't heard of, and you see that its revenue is actually right alongside some major projects. I mean, Trader Joe's revenue is comparable to the Bitcoin fees right now, and that's really something crazy. This is Token Terminal. Again, phenomenal project. Recommend you use this as you look into new DeFi projects. Next up, and this one I think is probably the project I'm going to talk about today that the fewest people have heard of. This is Chainlist.org. This is exactly what it sounds like. It is a list of chains, specifically a list of EVM, that stands for Ethereum Virtual Machine Networks. And you've probably heard of the main ones: Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Avalanche, Polygon, etc. But what you might not know is there are actually thousands of EVM compatible networks. So this is, and by the way, not all these are active. So some of these might have been created years ago and they're no longer being used, or they're test nets, for example. Pegglecoin, not sure what that is, but if you look through some of these, Quark Chain, maybe you want to research that one. I don't know what that is, by the way, so I'm not suggesting you invest in it, but this is a way that you can find a chain when they're just getting started. So if you ever wonder how people find a chain and then they're one of the first 10 people using it, this is how. They use a website like Chainlist to find chains that haven't been publicized yet but have been launched. For the sake of example, I'll look into Palm mainnet. So Palm is the last EVM network on here. I did a bit of research before the video just so that I would be ready, and it turns out that Palm is a layer 2 launched by Consensus. So Consensus is the Ethereum studio behind MetaMask, and this is an NFT protocol layer 2 solution they launched on Ethereum. And they like to talk about how it's more efficient, like most layer 2s. That usually just means that it's proof of stake and they have fewer validators. And they've got some partners already. I don't know if there's any DeFi projects on here. It appears that SushiSwap has gone, well, SushiSwap has always been multi-chain for a long time at least, but it appears that SushiSwap has already extended to this network. So perhaps DeFi will come to this network. Again, not saying to invest in it, but if you wanted to be one of the really early people on it, this is how you would do it. You would see that it's on Chainlist, look it up, see that it has some major backers, and then keep up on the news for when DeFi projects start to launch on here. This is Chainlist. Next project, so this is project number 4 that I like to use for DeFi analysis, is DappRadar.com. Dapp as in decentralized application, and radar. What this will do is will show you the number of users that projects have. For example, if we go to DeFi, and I think this project, DappRadar, there's so many things that they have to try to keep track of that they have struggled a bit to, for example, tag projects from new and upcoming chains as DeFi. So Trader Joe is on here, but they don't have it tagged as DeFi yet. Hopefully they're able to do that, but I would just give that caveat that these lists are not always entirely complete. But it is still quite useful. So for example, if you went to top decentralized finance apps, it might surprise you to learn that PancakeSwap and ApeSwap and other DEX on Binance Smart Chain and also Polygon actually have a large number of users, significantly more than SushiSwap. Uniswap, you'd have to go find the other Uniswap besides V3 and add it, but PancakeSwap at a minimum has way more users than Uniswap. Maybe not the same revenue, maybe not the same trading volume, but that's quite interesting to see, right? Because people don't really talk about Binance Smart Chain as much anymore. By the way, quick aside, this does not entirely surprise me. If you go look at crypto accounts on Instagram, on TikTok, they're all about BSC gems. They're talking about games, NFTs, meme coins, and they're almost all launched on the Binance Smart Chain. And I think that has to do with Ethereum fees and the fact that PancakeSwap is fun. But BSC gems are very much still a thing, and you can see that in the fact that PancakeSwap has really an order of magnitude users more than some other blue chip platforms like SushiSwap and Uniswap. And you could just scroll down here and look for some other protocols. Lydia Finance, that's a project on Avalanche I've talked about before. And there's not just DeFi projects on here, there's also games. So if any of you are interested in play to earn gaming or crypto gaming, you can go look at how many users games have. I think for games, this might be the most important metric. Perhaps protocol revenue would be neck and neck with this, but you could go on here and see which games are up and coming, which ones, this one's gained 42% this week. I have no idea what Overlord.world is, but if you were interested in crypto games, you might say, well, this game is growing quite rapidly. This one, Xworld Games, has gained 400% in a week, and these are users. So that's what you would use DappRadar for. Again, a very useful tool and one metric among many that you would use when evaluating resources, evaluating projects. Next one, and this, CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap, of course, you'll use for price, market cap, other stats. But one thing that I like to do on CoinGecko is to simply go to the Discover section and look at the trending coins. For example, if you go here now, you'll see a number of DeFi projects and play to earn games. There's Joe again. We love Joe on this channel, and we've seen Joe jump out in protocol revenue, and now we're seeing it's also trending. So that's something that might have a red flag of, okay, Joe is hitting multiple of these metrics. And actually, if you just go to exchanges, for example, and there's Joe. So you can see Joe has about half the number of users as Uniswap. So that's 3 points of Joe, right? So one metric among many. But one thing that I like to use here is look for patterns or look for unexpected things here. For example, we can see that Binance Coin, Avalanche, Moonriver, Solana, Phantom are all trending. So clear to me from that layer 1 smart contract platforms are trending right now. And we've covered a lot of these on this channel. But what you might say is, well, which one of these stands out? And I would say probably Moonriver is the one that stands out because Moonriver is much smaller than these other projects. Moonriver, if you're not familiar, is an EVM-compatible parachain built on Kusama. So then perhaps what you would do is you would say, okay, Moonriver is one I want to look into. Now I'll go over to DeFi Llama so you can see how a lot of these tools come together. I'll search for Moonriver, which I know is on here. So Moonriver is number 18. And you can see that there are actually several projects on Moonriver. And then this would be a great starting point for looking into DeFi projects on Moonriver. I'm not saying to necessarily buy any of them, but I'm saying that this is how you would do your own research. And that's how I use the CoinGecko trending search. And there's some other interesting lists on here as well. Final tool that I like to use is stakingrewards.com. This is a bit simpler, and this you're not going to have as an easy of a time finding gems, or at least I don't. But what you can do on here is just see the simple one-sided staking rewards for different tokens. Avalanche, for example, you could see 9.5%, Terra Luna 4.8%, Polkadot 13%. And so what this is useful for is if you have a crypto portfolio that you're not using in DeFi projects and you want to earn some passive income on this, you can either check what the rewards are for yours. So if you're not, perhaps you bought Algorand and you weren't sure whether it could be staked, hopefully you do that research first, but maybe you bought it and you don't know if it can be staked or you don't know where it could be staked. You can click on it here and it will tell you that you can stake it, the risk is stable, and it's very easy to do. That's just one example of one token, but you can find a lot other like that on here. If you go to view all assets, it's not just layer ones, there's also DeFi projects. So you could, for example, see PancakeSwap, Synthetics, Aave, etc. And you can see the reward percentages in here. Strongly recommend this if you have tokens that you're not doing anything with. You could go and check on whether they can be staked, or perhaps if you're debating between purchasing two tokens, you might want to go here and check the staking rewards. So Sushi and Aave, for example, two blue chip DeFi projects, they have very different staking rewards. Same thing with Synthetics. That is the final tool that I use to analyze DeFi projects. So final word on all of these is that none of these alone is going to give you enough information to know for sure that a project will be a success, but together this is a great way to both identify new projects and then also assess whether people are using them, whether they have TVL, whether they're generating revenue. Let me know what you guys think. Did you find this video helpful? Are there any other tools that you use to assess DeFi projects? Additionally, I'll be coming up with a more regular schedule for producing videos, so let me know down in the comments if you've been watching this channel which types of videos you like the most. That's all for today. Until next time, this is Dynamo DeFi.